You have diabetes or prediabetes, and there's one food that affects you in a unique way: rice. Because rice isn't just food. Rice is home. It's childhood. It's routine. It's the dish that feels incomplete when it's not there. But at the same time, rice has become a source of fear. You eat it, and you're already thinking about the spike. You test your levels afterward, and you get frustrated. You cut it out, and you feel sad, irritable, wanting to snack on something else. I'm Dr. Sarah Walker, and today I'm going to show you how to eat rice as a diabetic and still manage your blood sugar in the smartest way possible, without fear-mongering and without prohibition. And before I teach you the simplest adjustment that for many people changes the spike from day one, I have a quick request: subscribe to the channel. Here, I talk about health in simple language, especially for those 55 and older. Subscribe now, because this video will give you back something that diabetes often steals: peace of mind at mealtime. Now, I want you to remember one sentence, because it will be the foundation for everything. The problem is rarely the rice alone. The problem is the whole package. It's the portion size. It's the rice dominating the plate. It's rice with bread. It's rice with juice. It's rice with dessert right after. It's rice without fiber, without protein, without anything to slow it down. And it's the just one more little scoop that you take without realizing it. When you change your approach, you can keep rice in your life. It's not about eating without limits. It's about eating with intelligence. And I'm going to teach you how to do this as if I were right there with you, setting your plate at the table. First, let's understand something very simple. Rice is a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates turn into glucose in your blood. So yes, rice will raise your glucose to some extent. The question isn't if it raises it. The question is how much it raises and for how long it stays high. And that's exactly what we can influence with strategy. Now, pay attention, because here is the number one mistake that makes rice a problem for most people. The rice becomes the center of the plate. It's what I call a plate of rice with decorations. A huge pile of rice, a little bit of beans, and a small piece of protein. Or rice with potatoes and stuffing. Or rice and pasta on the same plate. Or rice and bread. In that case, even if you're not eating sweets, you're piling on carbohydrates. So the first adjustment is the most important and also the most emotionally difficult, because it messes with habit. Rice cannot be the king of the plate. And let me reassure you, you don't need to remove rice. You need to reduce the space it takes up and increase the rest of the plate so you don't go hungry. How do you do this without suffering? You add volume with what controls glucose better: fiber and protein. So let me teach you the simplest way to build a plate that better controls the spike. Half of your plate with salad and vegetables. And when I say half, I don't mean 2 lettuce leaves. I mean real volume. Well-seasoned cabbage, cucumber, tomato, greens, cauliflower, zucchini, eggplant, green beans, chayote, broccoli, carrots in moderation. Next, a portion of the plate with protein: chicken, fish, meat, eggs, tuna, or another protein you use. And then, finally, the smallest part of the plate is for the rice, along with beans or another legume. When you do this, something happens that many people don't believe until they try it. You finish the meal satisfied, but with a smaller spike, because you ate the same volume, but with fewer total carbohydrates dominating the plate. Now I'm going to tell you the second mistake that spikes glucose that almost no one notices: rice alone. Rice with little protein and little fiber becomes a naked carb, and naked carbs are absorbed faster. So, to control your blood sugar, you need to put brakes on the rice. And the strongest brakes are 2 things: protein and fiber. Protein controls hunger and slows down the meal. Fiber slows down digestion and helps smooth out the curve. And here comes a classic American friend that many people with diabetes start to fear unnecessarily: beans. I know some people say beans have carbs. They do, but beans also have fiber and plant-based protein. And for many people, rice with beans is more stable than rice alone. because the beans help to slow things down. Now, portion size is key. It's not about making a plate with 2 scoops of beans and 2 scoops of rice and thinking it's great. The secret is balance. And if you don't do well with beans, if they make you bloated or uncomfortable, that's fine. You can use lentils, chickpeas, or you can really increase your vegetables and salads. The important thing is not to leave the rice alone on the plate. Now, I'm going to teach you a strategy that seems too simple, but it changes the curve for many people. The order on your plate. Most people arrive hungry and start with the rice. And when you start with the rice, 2 things happen. You eat faster and you eat more. So do the opposite. Start with the salad and vegetables. It doesn't have to be a complicated salad. It can be a simple, well-dressed salad. You eat a few forkfuls of salad, then you eat the protein, and only then do you move on to the rice. This does 2 things at once. First, the fiber and protein arrive first and help reduce the speed of the carbohydrate absorption. Second, you don't get to the rice feeling desperate. And it's impressive how this changes your portion size without you feeling like you're sacrificing. Now, I'm going to teach you the strategy that saves those who love rice and don't want to miss it. The trick isn't to remove rice. The trick is to dilute rice. You take the rice and mix it with vegetables. You make rice with grated carrots and zucchini, rice with finely chopped cauliflower, rice with broccoli florets, rice with well-sautéed cabbage, rice with bell peppers and onions. What happens? Each forkful has less pure carbohydrate. You still eat rice. You still feel like you're eating real food, but the spike tends to be gentler for many people. And this is an excellent tool for the 55-plus crowd because it gets results without turning into a sad diet. Now comes a point that many people ignore. The type of rice does matter, but not in the way the internet portrays it. Some people think brown rice is the solution, and that's it. Brown rice can help many people because it has more fiber and tends to raise blood sugar more slowly than white rice. Parboiled rice can also be an interesting option for some people because it has a different structure and, in many cases, gives a more predictable response. White rice can be part of your diet, yes, but it requires more strategy with portions and combinations. And I'm going to tell you a truth that few people talk about. It's no use switching to brown rice and continuing to eat a huge plate of it. A giant portion of brown rice also causes a spike, and in some cases, brown rice can irritate the intestines of some people, especially those with a sensitive gut. So you don't need to get hung up on the label. You need to discover what works best for you in your body. And I'll teach you a simple way to test this without obsession. On one day, eat a smaller portion of white rice with beans, a large salad, and protein. On another day, eat the same portion with the same combination, just swapping the rice for brown or parboiled, and you observe 2 things. First, how you feel afterward. Heavy sleepiness, rapid hunger, craving sweets, fatigue. Second, if you measure your glucose, you observe the trend, not an isolated number. No panic, just the pattern. Now, I'm going to talk about the American combo that destroys control and makes diabetics think the problem is just the rice. Rice with bread. This is very common. A person eats rice and then wipes the plate with bread, or eats rice and still eats bread because bread isn't sweet, but it's a carbohydrate. Rice with juice, even natural juice. Juice is liquid sugar. So you have the carbohydrate from the rice and the liquid sugar from the juice, rice with a sweet dessert right after. You're just stacking them. So if you want to eat rice more safely, make an intelligent choice. Are you having rice? Then you don't need bread with it. Are you having rice? Then you don't need juice. Are you having rice? Then you don't need a sweet dessert at that moment. You choose rice as your main carbohydrate and build the rest of the meal to make it work. This is freedom with strategy. Now I'm going to teach you a tool that has become famous and, when done correctly, can help some people. Day-old rice. When you cook rice, let it cool and then reheat it, part of the starch can behave differently. In some people, this results in a slightly gentler spike. It's not magic, and it doesn't mean you can eat unlimited rice. It's just an extra tool. But be careful because this is where a very important safety point comes in. Rice cannot be left out of the refrigerator for hours. Some people leave a pot of rice on the stove all day and then eat it. This is dangerous. The safe way is cook it, let it cool a bit, and put it in the fridge relatively soon. Then when it's time to eat, you reheat it well. No lukewarm rice. You reheat it properly. And if you're in doubt, don't risk it. Make fresh rice and use the other strategies. The goal is health, not an adventure. Now let's move on to a tool that many people use and that can help some, but it's not mandatory. Vinegar as a salad dressing. Some people notice a smaller spike when they start their meal with a salad dressed with vinegar. I like to talk about this with caution. You don't need to drink pure vinegar. You don't need to do shots. The smartest way is to use it as a dressing on your salad. But be warned, if you have reflux, gastritis, or heartburn, vinegar can make it worse. So if it gets worse, don't use it. Simple. Now, one of the most powerful tools for curbing the glucose spike after rice is one that almost nobody values: what you do after you eat. Many people eat and go straight to the couch, and then the glucose rises higher and stays high for longer. If you do some light movement after eating, you help your body use that glucose. I'm not talking about going to the gym. I'm not talking about running. I'm talking about walking a little, a short walk, walking around the house, tidying up the kitchen while standing, folding some laundry, sweeping the house slowly. This already helps a lot of people. Now, an important note of caution. If you use insulin or medications that can lower your sugar too much, walking after a meal can lower it even more. So, observe your body. Tremors, cold sweats, intense weakness, confusion, or a sudden, very strong hunger can be signs of low blood sugar. If this happens, you need to talk to your doctor to adjust safely. The goal is to improve without risk. Now I'll give you a strategy that seems simple but makes a big difference. Don't eat in a hurry. When you eat fast, you eat more. And with rice, this is very clear. So if you want to curb your glucose, one thing that helps is eat slowly. Chew more. Take a pause in the middle of your meal. And I'll give you a practical trick. Serve your portion of rice and don't leave the pot on the table, because going for seconds happens automatically. You finish your plate, look at the pot, and think, just a little more. If the pot isn't there, you give your body time to realize it's already satisfied. Now, I want you to understand something. Many people think they eat little rice and still get a spike, and then they get frustrated. But when we look closely, it's usually for one of these reasons. The amount of rice wasn't actually that small. It was small to the eye, but large in practice. There was bread, stuffing, potatoes, or pasta along with it. There was juice or soda. The meal was low in protein and fiber, so everything was absorbed quickly. There was a sweet dessert right after. Or dinner was late and large, and the person lay down right after. So instead of blaming the rice, ask yourself a smarter question. What was with the rice? And that alone will change the way you eat. Now I'll give you practical examples of rice dishes that tend to work better for diabetics and why. First example, rice, beans, a large salad, and chicken or fish. This is the well-assembled classic. You eat the salad first, then the protein, then the rice and beans in a controlled portion. This plate is simple and, for many people, more stable than it seems. Second example, rice mixed with vegetables. You take a smaller portion of rice and mix it with zucchini and carrots, or with cauliflower, or with cabbage, and you complete it with beans and protein. This dish provides volume, chewing, and satiety. Third example, parboiled or brown rice with beans and a lot of salad. Many people feel that this type of rice holds them longer, not because it's magic, but because the structure and fiber help to slow down absorption. Fourth example, day-old rice stored and reheated properly with salad, protein, and beans. For some people, this helps to smooth out the curve. Now, I'm going to give you a very strong strategy for restaurants because eating out can make rice a trap. At a restaurant, the plate comes huge and you arrive hungry. So do this. First, start with a salad. Even if it's simple, get a salad. Second, choose your protein. Third, take a small amount of rice. And if it's a buffet, a practical tip is to use the smaller spoon or the small ladle. Fourth, avoid the bread and avoid the juice. Fifth, if you can, Walk for a few minutes after lunch. Even if it's just around the block, it's a simple and powerful strategy. Now let's talk about dinner, because many people have nighttime spikes because of dinner. They eat rice late, eat a large portion, and go to bed. Then the body spends the whole night dealing with it. And then what many people report happens. They wake up thirsty, they wake up to urinate, they wake up tired. So if you want to eat rice at night and sleep better, try 3 adjustments. A smaller portion at dinner, more vegetables and protein, and don't lie down immediately after. And if you want a simple test, do this for a few days. Reduce the rice at dinner and increase the vegetables and protein. Many people feel a difference in their sleep and the next day. Now I'm going to give you a simple 1-week plan for you to test rice with strategy without getting lost. On the first day, you build your plate with half salad and vegetables, protein, and a smaller portion of rice with beans. On the second day, you keep the same plate, but start with the salad and leave the rice for last. On the third day, you keep the plate and do some light movement after eating. On the fourth day, you test brown or parboiled rice in the same portion. On the fifth day, you make rice mixed with vegetables to dilute it. On the sixth day, if you want, test the day-old rice, ensuring good hygiene and reheating it well. On the seventh day, you compare how your body feels. Less hunger afterward, less heavy sleepiness, fewer sweet cravings, more predictability. That's what matters. Now I'm going to answer questions that always come up. Doctor, can a diabetic eat rice every day? Yes, but the smarter question is it working for you? Some people can eat rice every day with a well-portioned and well-assembled plate. For others, if they eat it every day, they start to overdo it without realizing. So if you feel that you lose control every day, alternating helps. One day, rice and beans, another day, more vegetables, and another base in a small portion, like a small portion of potatoes, yucca, or even a lower carb plate. Variety is a tool. Doctor, is brown rice always better? For many people, yes, it helps. But a giant portion of brown rice still causes a spike. And a small portion of white rice with beans, salad, and protein can be more stable than a mountain of brown rice. The secret isn't the label, it's the whole plate. Doctor, what about stuffing? Stuffing can become a second serving of rice. If you love stuffing, use a small amount, and don't use stuffing as if it were a mandatory part of every meal with rice. Doctor, what about sushi? Japanese rice is stickier and for some people, spikes blood sugar more. Also, it can have sweet sauces. If you love sushi, the way to go is a smaller portion, less sweet sauce, and observing the pattern. And if you can, walking a bit afterward helps. Now, I'm going to give you a final message that is golden. You don't need to eat perfectly. You need to eat intelligently. If you love rice, you don't need to cut it out. You need to apply the brakes, and the brakes are very clear. Smaller portions. More vegetables and salad to fill the plate. Real protein, fiber like beans or vegetables. Order, salad first, rice last, no bread and no juice with it, and a little light movement afterward if it's safe for you. And before I finish, I have one last request. Subscribe to the channel. In the next video, I'll show you how to eat beans, potatoes, and bread as a diabetic without spiking your glucose, using the same simple and applicable strategies. I'm Dr. Sarah Walker, and remember, diabetes is not controlled with prohibition. It's controlled with intelligence. You can eat rice, yes, as long as you put the rice in the right place on your plate and give your body the right breaks for it to become stability, not a scare.